Yo, what's good, family? Today we're diving into some real talk about the Essence Festival 2025 down in New Orleans. Y'all know this used to be the spot for Black American culture. We talking jambalaya, jazz, and that soulful second line energy. But this year, it's feeling more like a Jollof rice takeover. And folks are heated. Attendance is down, vendors are ghosting, and Black Americans are sounding out saying the Essence Festival ain't what it used to be. So what's the deal? Let's unpack this cultural tug of war and figure out why the vibes are off. So buckle up, because we're about to get into it. All right, let's set the stage. Essence Festival, born in 1995 to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Essence magazine, was the cultural mecca of Black Americans. You know, we talking New Orleans, man. We talking the heart of the Black Southern soul, you know, with over 400,000 people showing up yearly for music, empowerment, seminars, and that unmatched Black culture that New Orleans provides. But in 2025, the streets are saying it's a ghost town compared to the glory days. Hotel capacity dropped from 91% in 2024 to 83% this year. Vendors are out here complaining about getting shuffled around like a bad Tinder date. Booths moved at the last minute. Foot traffic, you know, weaker than it's ever been. You know, now, you know, here's what's crazy. A lot of folks are saying that the Essence Festival, you know, is not catering to foundational Black Americans anymore. You know, that's us, the descendants of the enslaved, the ones who put the soul into this country. Instead, folks are feeling like the festival is rolling out the red carpet for immigrant Black folks. And the disconnect is real. Some people straight up called it a immigrant cesspool that forgot about Black American culture. Another said it's tone deaf to have Africans running a festival in New Orleans, you know, the cradle of Black American heritage. You know what I mean? That's some Jollof rice versus jambalaya beef right there, if you ask me. You know, so who's steering this ship? Essence Communications, which runs the festival and the magazine, is owned by Richelieu Dennis. That's Richelieu Dennis, a Liberian immigrant who bought it in 2018. Now, Dennis came up with Sundial Brands, you know, slinging shea butter products. You know, and he's been pushing this "we own our culture" narrative. And, you know, that sounds good. No doubt, on the surface level, that sounds kind of good, right? But hold up. Some of y'all are saying his visions are more Pan-African than pro-Freeman. Folks are out here like, why is Essence platforming sponsors who are sidelining Black American influencers and acts? They're saying the festival's lost that gumbo flavor, that Black American essence, you know what I mean? And leaning hard into a broader diaspora vibe. Now, I'm not trying to go in on Pan-Africanism right now. And, you know, I know people across the diaspora may have shared a struggle under white supremacy. No doubt about that. But when you're in New Orleans, the birthplace of jazz, blues, and bounce, you gotta respect the roots. Foundational Black Americans are saying Essence feels like it's been culturally appropriated. Our spaces, our stories are getting remixed without our input. One vendor was like, we showed up ready, but they moved our booth twice, and the crowd wasn't there to buy. That's not just bad logistics, that's a sign of the soul going missing. You know, and let's talk about Richelieu Dennis for a hot second. man's got a track record. Back in 2020, you know, Black Female Anonymous, a group of Essence employees, dropped a bombshell on Medium, accusing Dennis of sexual harassment, pay inequality, and fostering a toxic work culture. He stepped down as CEO after that, and Caroline Wanger took over. But the damage was already done. Folks are side-eyeing his leadership, you know, wondering if the festival's priorities got twisted when Dennis took the wheel. Now, I ain't saying that he's a devil or nothing like that, but when your own staff calls you out and the vendors are dipping, maybe it's time to check the playbook. Also, AT&T, one of Essence's big sponsors, dropped some sponsor guardrails that, you know, folks are kind of raising the eyebrow to, including myself. I mean, they're out there saying, don't use race, gender, or sexual terms. Of course, I'm not gonna agree with the sexual terms or whatever, but no negative framing of tech. You know, no critiquing institutions. Keep it inclusive and future forward. You know, so I mean, there's some crazy guidelines, man. You know, black culture is being erased. They want us to say, you know, how do we carry forward cultural, you know, our culture, but don't exactly want us to speak on our culture. You know, it's just crazy. You know, this is New Orleans, not a corporate boardroom. I call this anti-black sentiment, you know, dressed up as an inclusiveness. You know, they kind of want to bring them in and just push us out. That's what it feels like. You know, how are you gonna celebrate black culture while gagging the very people who created it? That's like serving jambalaya with no spice. Ain't nobody eating that shit. Here's what's crazy. Essence Fest is still pulling in big names like, you know, Babyface, Jill Scott, Masterpiece, Final Show with No Limit, and the No Limit Soldiers. But even that star power, you know, the crowds are thinner this year. It just is what it is. And the vendors are like, nah, we ain't going. If the people ain't there, the vendors not gonna be there. There's nobody to sell to. I mean, it just makes sense. You know? And why, you ask? Because black Americans are voting with their feet. They're saying, if this ain't for us, we ain't showing up. And don't get it twisted. This ain't just about music or money. It's about who gets to tell our story. You know? Some people may like jollof rice, but when you in the NOLA, you better serve some damn jambalaya. I'm sorry, just hear what it is. So what's the fix? First, Essence needs to listen to the streets. Folks want more black American voices, from the performers to the vendors to the planners. Second, bring back the soul. New Orleans, you know, is not Jamaica or Lagos. You know, honor the city's black American roots. Give us that bounce, that brass, that freedom pride, you know, that second line, that, you know, that. Look, I'm all for black unity, but unity doesn't mean erase our flavor. Essence Fest has to decide. It's gonna have to decide to be the gumbo pot of black American culture or some type of watered down stew that don't satisfy nobody. Y'all tell me what you think in the comments. Hit that like button. You know, if you team jambalaya or you team jollof rice. Y'all let me know in the comments below. And subscribe to the Grassroots for more truth. And, you know, stay woke, stay vigilant, stay loud. And till next time, Grassroots out of here, man. Peace, y'all.